So can you see my screen now?
Yes. How to create
Can
an
you?
impactful CV, LinkedIn profile. Yes.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So that's working okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then I can see now that I can change the presenter. So my console, it says make
Okay.
all admin,
Yes.
but it also says that the broadcast has started. So we don't really want to start until the starting time, do we?
Somebody has started the broadcasting. Can you not? Did somebody start? Okay. Did somebody start the broadcast by accident?
Not here.
Not here, no.
Okay.
What would you like us to do, Said?
So I would stop and then go change presenter.
Yeah, back to me.
And then
Yeah.
I'd have back to Nigel, verify presenter change. Yes.
Okay.
So then that goes back to Nigel. Okay.
And then if I show my screen.
Corin, is your mouse working okay now?
No. No, it's not. And I need to plug the laptop in. So I think it might be that it does kind of work subsequently when it comes to me. I don't know, but if not, Mick, if you're able to put that up, and then I'll just say, could you make next slide, please? If
Yeah.
that's all right.
Okay, yeah, I'll try my best.
Yeah, thank you.
So Mick, you have kind of an overall control now, do you? So you can
Well, I think we all do.
Okay.
But yeah, I believe I might be able to.
So we've all got that same menu, have we, where it says we've got
Yeah,
a big kind of play button, show screen, stop showing screen, and change presenter. So we've all got that ability now.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
let me open up.
How do you get to see everyone's videos again? Because I've been sharing my screen, and then when you come out of it, you can no longer see the the videos of everyone. Audience view. No.
The 1 minute, we'll wait and then start, Nilu.
Yes. How is the attendance?
Hi, Rati.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Hi.
Hi, Rati.
Hi, Nilusha. Hi, everyone.
Hi. So when
Hi.
we start, except for the speakers, the others, we will switch off our cameras so that
Sure.
any bandwidth issues won't happen.
Sure.
Neville, Nigel, should we start? It's
Well,
just
yes,
written.
start, is it? Yes, please
Yeah?
start.
Okay. Nilu, over to you.
Right. So on behalf of ACCA, welcome everyone. So dear students and affiliates, thank you for being here today. The Employability Support and Tips webinar is an entire workshop put together by ACCA to offer you an end-to-end support on how to find initial employment, maintain employment, or change your employment if needed, and in overall, how you as an ACCA student or affiliate will stand out from the rest. So this will help you to take those first steps towards your key goals in life. You will also learn how to write a winning CV, interview skills, and overall how to make the maximum of an ACCA careers. So we are very fortunate to have such eminent speakers and panelists joining us today, and hope you will make the maximum use of this session. And to start the session with more details on ACCA careers, I now hand over to Nigel.
Hello there. Thank you very much for that. And a warm welcome to everyone to our employability support webinar for Sri Lanka. Now, we've got a very much a packed program today. So the, the order of the webinar is that I'm going to talk about ACCA careers, our job board and our other employability products. Then I'll pass over to Corinne Mills, who is our career management expert. She will then pass over to Neville Rose, our CV expert, and then later on we'll have a panel of very distinguished guests from the Sri Lankan business community. Right, so the first thing is then I'll talk about ACCA careers. Now, my job is actually head of ACCA careers, and really today I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about ACCA careers itself, which is our global digital employability hub for finance professionals. Secondly, I'll talk how this site helps fulfill our core purpose of creating opportunity and also bringing benefits to all of our stakeholders. But thirdly, I'm also going to talk specifically how we provide you, our future members, with career support, especially during these very uncertain times we're all facing. But first of all, a little bit of background. Now, as we all know, the recruitment market has been, you can either call it terrible or slow during the last 12 months. It's been pretty awful. But increasingly, we're now seeing more signs that recovery, a global recovery, is on its way. And I just wanted to show you in that top left, there was a news article by Reuters, which was published in the UK just yesterday. And it said, British businesses have the strongest hiring intentions in a year, as the economic outlook has brightened over the past 3 months. The Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development said 56% of businesses plan to increase staff numbers in the coming months, and hiring plans were strongest in healthcare, finance, education, IT, but obviously weakest in the hospitality sector. So obviously that's just about the UK, but I think that's showing, you know, the sort of the green shoots of recovery are certainly on their way. Now, I really think we've seen two things during this crisis. The first is that it's the finance team who take control when firms really need help. And that puts you as trainee accountants in a fantastic position to join that finance team. But secondly, we've certainly seen there's almost a flight to safety for job seekers. So we can see if you analyze the searches done on Google for accounting, those have really increased over the last year. And it's because lots and lots of people are realizing that accountancy is both a reliable and well-paid profession. But it's obviously a lot more than that. It's an attractive, diverse and flexible career choice, where you can both learn and practice broad business skills. And that's why LinkedIn has accountancy as the job with the fastest growing demand. And that's certainly the case when corporate finances need more sophisticated hands-on management. And that's something that, computers, AI just cannot do. You need a real person to sort of take control when the chips are down. But also, as you can see on the right, accountants have some of the highest rates of workforce confidence in terms of job security, job finances, and job outlook. So accountants are really helping to assist the recovery and benefit from the recovery. Now, I was saying that the market, has been down in terms of jobs, but actually on ACCA careers, we still have lots of jobs. In fact, we have over 200,000 relevant job opportunities every month, because we aim really to be a one-stop shop for all ACCA roles around the world. And we source our vacancies via employers and partner feeds in every country across the globe. Now, this enables us to provide you with a breadth of jobs in every region, at every level, and in every sector. So we've got roles from audit to tax, and in sectors from banking to transport. So with over 1.5 million jobs every year, we're actually the largest specialist job board for finance and accountants in the world. And that's just another way that ACCA is leading the profession. And the reason we have so many jobs is because we work extremely closely with employers. And you can see a selection of employers there. So we have roles in public practice and in global corporates, from Amazon to Xero. And we also have a range of local vacancies too. So the reason these companies use us is the site works very well for them. It generates lots of candidates for them. And so because it works well for them, they then in turn place lots of their vacancies with us every month. Now, I think the best way of demonstrating how the site really brings alive our employability proposition is just to have a look, a detailed look at the jobs themselves. As you can see from this slide, we carry a range of roles from every type to suit both members and future members. But I think importantly, they also demonstrate the diversity of roles. We've got commercial roles, public good roles, or wider value creation roles. And these roles tend to focus on purpose and sustainability as much as profit. And the qualification leads to all of these roles. So as you can see, we have global jobs from huge companies like Apple. We have charity jobs or trustee jobs. For example, the role, as you can see on the top right, supporting deaf children in Vietnam. On the bottom left, we have trainee accountant internships, where you'll learn both technical and personal skills on the job. And then on the right, we've got this new breed of job, which requires both digital and finance skills that we're hearing a lot more about. For example, this one for a digital value specialist. Now, to reinforce this digital message, we have a dedicated digital jobs hub. And this has really two kinds of roles. It has these pure digital roles. So for another example would be a digital finance transformation lead at Accenture. Or it has more traditional accounting roles, but in leading digital companies. For example, a business advisory role at Virgin Media. Now, this digital hub also has profiles of ACCA members in exciting digital roles. And it also features, as you can see in the bottom left there, our new career zones. Now, these career zones explain these new career fields which are now developing, and also talk about the skills that are needed to work in them. And they have titles like, or we've really grouped together jobs in zones or pockets, things like business transformer or data navigator. And these type of roles are going to be more important in the future. Now, something new and different we're now doing, in some ways it's our secret weapon, is that we're dynamically feeding jobs from ACCA Careers to relevant page content on ACCA Global. That's our main website. And we're doing this via something called Jobs Widgets. Now you can see an example of the Jobs Widget on that right-hand side, the BDO role. So for example, if you're looking at our, our main website at all of our skills profiles, and we've actually got, you can see those on the left-hand side, we've got over 100 of these skills profiles in our competency framework. So for example, you're looking at the tech risk competency profile. You can then actually see real, actual tech risk jobs on those pages on that jobs widget. Now, this actually provides us many benefits. It keeps users like you posted with the latest relevant roles, even if you're not actually looking at the job site. It helps us to stand out from rival bodies because they don't have this. It attracts the all-important passive job seeker, the companies. It's hugely increased our global traffic to the careers site. But I think above all, it creates a direct link between our qualification and rewarding careers. Now, this is probably the most important page in the whole presentation, really, and it's to talk about our job alerts. Now, if you haven't signed up for a job alert, I really recommend you do. And this is just, and this is a way for relevant jobs, again, just to come to you. Again, you don't even need to look at the job site. So it's incredibly easy, really. All you have to do is when you are on the job board, you just have to do this once. Just search for a role, let's say finance analyst, and then at the top of that page, just click on create alert. Then that pop-up, which you can see in the middle, appears. Just put in your email address in there, and then you'll be sent finance analyst roles directly to your inbox. Now, if you want, you can tailor your job alerts by clicking on that job alerts link on the navigation bar, and you can just add in other filters like salary and things like that. Now, we send out between 20 and 30,000 job alert emails every day. So this is something that lots of our students are using just because it gives them a sort of a head start in their job search. Something else we have is our careers advice, our practical careers advice. And this enables us to tailor our site to specifically to accountancy and finance. So we've got over 400 pieces of content, articles and videos, which is a great resource written by our careers experts. And they're produced with our users in mind. So we've got lots of things there. How to write a financial CV, useful tips on working from home, returning to work after lockdown, how to do a virtual interview, or bringing your LinkedIn profile up to scratch. And there's videos there from our own talent doctor, Dr. Rob Young. Now on the right, I just want to point out, we've got something very special indeed. We also offer our future members a free career management advice and free CV advice. Both of them are provided by our trusted partners, and Neville and Corinne there work for those companies, and they're the companies who fulfill this free advice. I would definitely, if you haven't done that before, take up the opportunity to do that, or even ask them a question because they're on the call today. Right, another new initiative is something called virtual career fairs, which we've brought in about a year ago. And we've now run over 12 of these in different regions from Ireland to Malaysia, and they've had an incredible 20,000 attendees so far. So how these work is they really mimic a real careers fair in terms of having virtual employer booths where you can really interact with a recruiter. And in China recently, we had 150 of these booths. So it was amazing. And these virtual career fairs give you the chance to apply for hundreds of jobs, and which you then apply for on our careers site. Plus, there are loads of career advice sessions and lots of dynamic content about helping you on your ACCA journey. And we've backed this up with a vast amount of global employability webinars and local employability webinars, just as the very call we're on today. And these involve ACCA experts and other career experts, for example, to help you maximize your ACCA qualification when you're looking for a job, how to add it to a CV, a cover letter, or again, your LinkedIn profile, and really how to bring out your key skills and sell yourself during the interview process. And you'll certainly be receiving, whenever we do these employability webinars or these virtual career fairs, you will definitely be alerted. So the big question is really, are our users finding the site effective, and are they satisfied with our service? Well, the feedback has always been really positive about this, especially about the breadth of our global reach and our global roles. And I think it shows we're really helping, obviously, especially during these sort of troubled times over the last year or so. And you can see one of those verbatim comments at the bottom, which is talking about our free CV review and the benefit this student took from that. And then on the right hand side, you can just see an example of some of our leading employer brands where our members actually work. And I think this really highlights that many of our members are having rewarding careers in both senses of that term, whether they're working in practice or in commerce. But it's not just employees who benefit from us, our employers benefit from us when they're looking to recruit finance talent. And again, you can see some of the excellent feedback we have had. Even a member there on the left who took advantage of our free job listings offer. And just at the bottom, you can see the just some highlights really from our latest employer survey, which shows how more and more ACCA employers are using the job board to find talent. So again, I'll just let you sort of read through those. The majority are finding that the site helps them recruit talent. They feel it's easy to use. They're impressed with the quality of candidates, and an awful lot would use it again. So again, all those metrics, as you can see on the on the right hand side, are all going in the right direction. Now, the good news is all this focus on product development and all this focus on promotion has had a really positive effect. As you can see there in those figures in green, all our key metrics, are well up. And you can see that over a year, that's comparing, the last calendar year to the previous one, we generated over 700,000 job applications. Just, the site really is a huge engine for job applications for our partners, and that's up almost by a quarter. And then I sort of mentioned that we use social media a lot. We've got over 50,000 followers on our LinkedIn page, again, where we are also posting these jobs. So I think it's obviously works really well for our students, affiliates, and members. But I think it also shows that it means we're useful for our employers because we have the talent, that's you, which they need. And that's why, again, I'll stress that we're attracting more and more employers every week. So having a good site is half the story, but actually it needs to be promoted to the right people, the right time, in the right place. So we're really every year sort of increasing our external promotion across all of the main channels, which you can see, whether that's LinkedIn or Facebook paid search or advertising on other news sites like The Guardian. We obviously also use our own internal channels, our websites, our magazines, and our newsletters, both centrally and locally. So really the final slide I wanted to show you is just really a sort of a little sort of quick peek at the future, really, about in terms of our sort of direction of travel, really, because we want to be far more than just a job board, that thing you can just see in the center. We really want to be a digital employability network, and using, you know, all those things around the job board. So we want to provide you with more personalized and relevant jobs, whether that's via our social media communities, ACCA Global, or My ACCA. We're producing more, you know, ever more career progression tools and video content. And on the bottom right, you can see our career fairs and videos. And career fairs and webinars, which we run in every region. So when you stand back and then look at this, you can see that all of this is designed to strengthen our employability service to you, so you can think ahead, whatever the business environment is in the future. Right, so that's the overview of ACCA careers, and we'll now sort of move through the order of the day. So I'm going to now pass over to Corinne Mills, who I hope is on the call and ready to take over. And I might ask you, Corinne, I'm going to ask all of our partners today and our panelists, if you wouldn't mind just telling us sort of who you are, what you do, and just a little bit of your career history, because I thought it would be useful for the students on the call just to get an idea of the different career paths you can take.
Thank you, Nigel. Yeah, no, delighted to be here today. And I have to say, it is encouraging news, I think. It has been a grim old time, but hopefully, you know, we are, it's going to be better going forward. And I think, Nigel, what you were talking about, some of the really exciting new careers in this field as well. There's so many other opportunities out there. Yes, well, look, let me talk a little bit about myself then. So I'm Corinne Mills, I'm Managing Director of Personal Career Management, and I'm a career coach, and I manage a team of career coaches at Personal Career Management. And I guess we do two things, which is help people kind of work out what it is that they want to do going forward career-wise. Sometimes there's not a lot of clarity. You might know you want to be in finance, but actually there's so many variations within that. What's going to play to your strengths and interests? And secondly, we help people get that job. So CVs and interviews and where to look and how to network, all of those things. So, and we also do executive coaching for people who are in that job as well. So that's kind of my day job and what I do. But my career path was quite different, as I'm sure a lot of people who are here listening to this. I've had a few different career changes. I started off wanted to be an actress. when I worked out I wasn't going to be the next Judi Dench, I decided that I better change career. And then I went into HR, which I really enjoyed and loved, but then I got headhunted to manage an employment project for people who were unemployed. And I found my thing. I just found that I really, really loved it. So I worked there for a charity for 7 years and then set up my business, which was in 2003, so quite a long time ago, opening this more widely to people. I work with people at all levels, from CEO level to a recent graduates. So yes, so I've had lots of career changes along the way, being an employee, run my own business, being a women returner, after having kids. You know, people's career stories are always a little bit more zigzaggy than you imagine they are, rather than a straight line. So that's a little bit about me. And then along the way, I'll just do a little bit of a plug, and I will at the end. I've written books. I've written the UK's best-selling CV book. I've written another book called Career Coach, and I do a lot of media work. So you'll see me on the BBC, and I write features and things for the national press. So yeah, so that's me. Is that the kind of thing you were after, Nigel?
Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. I will forevermore think of you as Judy Dench.
Yeah, it wasn't going to happen, much as I would have liked it to happen. Right now, we love technology when it works. I'm hoping this is going to work now when I share my screen. So let me have a look at whether I can move my mouse, which has been a little bit temperamental. And it's not working for some reason. So I might call on my Mick to see if he might be able to help me to show my screen. Let's have a look. Whoop. Well, while Mick does that, let me talk through. So, yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. I'll go right to the start. This was our reserve. This was our contingency. If my slides didn't work, this was going to work. Good, we're up there, and I'm just going to ask Mick at certain points to change the slides. So, what we're going to talk about, so we thought we'd do something around enhancing your employability. Well, what do we mean by that? Really, it's about, right, how you're going to get the job that you want, and also when you're in it, how you're going to progress. So I thought we would do something around that. And I have to say, Nigel, as well, when you're talking about the resources, the career resources from ACCA, absolutely fantastic. There's so much there that's available for you to tap into. So hopefully what I'm going to do today and outline is going to complement that as well. Right, fantastic. So Mick, can we go to the next slide? So let's talk about what employers want. Right, so whether you are looking for your first job after kind of graduating, after qualifying, or whether you're mid-career or even towards the end of your career, what do actually employers want? Well, they want somebody who clearly can do the job. They want somebody who wants to be there. But there's also an important factor, and I think this is something that's really underestimated, sometimes by finance professionals. It's not just about your technical capabilities and your keenness and enthusiasm. It's what you bring as a person. It's those personal qualities, how you're going to do the job. It's about the behaviours in that job. And actually, if you understand this and can really key into this, then you're going to make yourself highly employable and you're going to make a compelling candidate for employers. So Mick, if we could go to the next slide. So let's just take each one of those to start off with. Can you do the job? Well, of course, right? If they want somebody who specialises in tax, you need to know your tax. So you've got to be able to do the job. And I think particularly from the technical side, you know, this is, I've got here an example, a job description, a typical job description, and it will specify the particular requirements that they are looking for, and you have to be able to match that. And again, if you're a student and it's something that you have covered in your studies, then really you want to grab the text that describes the course components that you've been doing, and you want to put that in your CV to show that that's what you've been doing, and that's what you need to talk about at interview as well. So you absolutely have to demonstrate that you have the knowledge that's needed. Again, any kind of practical experience that they're after, of course, you're going to need that as well. But it's this other element that I really want to spend some time on today with you, which is a little bit more about the personal qualities that you bring. Okay, right? So you've got to technically do the job, but actually, how are you going to do the job? So here in this person's spec, it's got about strong critical thinking skills or problem solving skills. It's got about good written communication skills. Now you think, well, that's quite commonly written on person specifications or in job details. Yeah, it's kind of standard. But they really mean this. They really want to understand a bit more about your personal qualities and what you bring, not just that you are a qualified professional. Mick, if you could demand the next slide for me. So just before we go into that high performer thing, this kind of do you want the job is really important as well, because for any candidate, it takes a long time to hire somebody. You have to get quite a few people together to sit on the interview panel. You have to arrange the date. You have to draw the job spec up. When you choose somebody, you've got to get the contract sorted. You've got to onboard them. It's a lot of faff to recruit somebody. So they want to make sure that you're going to stay, that you genuinely want that job. And sometimes candidates can play it a little bit too cool because they think, well, I don't want to come across as desperate. But actually, employers really want to know that you genuinely want to be there and you're committed to be there, because you're more likely to bring energy and motivation up there. They don't want to spend 3 months inducting you and then you're off elsewhere. So again, as a candidate, but also as an employee, if you're looking to progress, you need to bring energy and enthusiasm. Right, Mick, the next slide, if you would be so kind. This is the bit that I want to spend most of this presentation on, is the behaviours in the job, because this is what's going to differentiate you from other candidates who want the same job as you, or colleagues who want the promotion that you want as well. How you get the job done. So what am I talking about in those kind of things? When I'm saying, look, you're a person who gets things done. Okay, so you've got a task, you do the task, you're efficient in the task, you're resilient and reliable. Fantastic. Okay, those are some of the absolute kind of bottom line things that you need. But it's also these other elements. It's about problem solving. So I really like, Nigel, when you talked earlier about, it's all very well for machine learning, but when those chips are down, it needs a human to really key in, because it's the critical thinking, it's the judgment, it's the creativity, it's the innovation, it's the understanding or the sensitivity or the emotional intelligence, right? Computers can't do any of those things, and they're unlikely to be able to do any of those things. But those are the things that you overlay, that you bring to bear in the work that you do, that kind of makes you such a valuable employee and an asset. So it's that initiative, it's the problem solving, also the commercial awareness. Look, as a finance professional, what have you got to do? You've got to help improve profits, reduce costs, mitigate risks. Right, that's the point of view. I help create opportunities. So again, you need to think about what the impact of what it is that you're doing. Very often, and I'm sure Neville will talk about this, people will describe themselves on their CV or interview in the way that just describes the tasks that they do. Yes, well, I do the monthly accounts, or I create these spreadsheets, or I do this analysis, or I do audit. But actually, what's the point of that? Well, the point is, to make the organisation in a more robust place, more profitable place, a better place than it was before. That's the whole point, to make positive change. And this change agent thing is so important, because everything is about transformation now. Again, Nigel talking about some of the new kinds of roles that are coming across now. Transformation is often in the very words of it, but actually that's feeding through into every single job, not just finance, but every job. Nothing is about standing still. It's all about organizational development. How can we make things better? That's the impetus. That's the impulse. So you have to be kind of conveying that you are a change agent, that you are somebody who's who's agile, who can spot opportunities, can make things better. That's how you need to be pitching yourself. And as part of that, you need to be learning, because, oh my gosh, again, when things change, you need to be learning quickly. And actually, I think it was interesting with the pandemic because, of course, that was a real crisis management situation. We all had to deal with that in our own way. There were kind of multiple and complex challenges around all of those things. And some organisations will have been just about trying surviving in the meantime, whereas others have used this as an opportunity to accelerate the transformation. I think there's a lot of evidence, and I'm doing a lot of reading and saying that this has actually telescoped an awful lot of the change that was already due to happen, like things like hybrid working and remote working. Well, we all probably knew it was going to be working more towards that that kind of a way of working. But oh my gosh, it's come now. And will we go back? Probably a little bit, but maybe not so much. So there's something about flexibility, agility. You've always got to be showing that you add value in terms of what you do. Again, it's not a maintenance role that you're doing. You're an asset to the organisation, that you're quality conscious. And the way that you do a lot of these things and the way you demonstrate a lot of these things are by your behaviours. And that will involve, yes, it'll be resilience and working under pressure and all of those things. But a lot of it will also be your soft skills in addition to your technical skills, your relationship building, all of those things. So let's look at some examples of that. Mick, if you can just go to the next slide. Yeah, so we've talked about problem solving, improving efficiency and quality, all of those things. You've got to look for examples of when you've been able to achieve this. Now, I know that some of you will maybe not even working in finance at the moment. I get that, and you're looking for your first job in finance. But don't think, oh, I can't prove any of those things. Actually, what you probably need to do is think about examples in your current role or in previous roles where you've demonstrated this, right? Because this is the kind of employee that employers want to invest in. So whether you've been working in retail or hospitality or administrative, whatever it is, you'll have still had to deal with challenges, right? You might have inherited a system of working that was, full of errors, or you had a tricky customer that you had to deal with, that you smoothed a problem out for them, or you created a new system, or you rectified an error, or you had to cover while two of your colleagues were off sick and you had to hold the whole thing together just by yourself. But no matter what job you've done, there will be examples that you can draw on to demonstrate this. So don't downplay it. I think quite the reverse. What I'm saying to you is upplay it, emphasize it, because this is what employers want to hear. And I know sometimes people, feel like, oh, I don't want to brag, right? I don't want to be boastful. If I go to an interview and I'm talking about how marvelous I am and how I've done all of these things, it might sound immodest. But actually, this is what the employer wants to hear. They don't want to drag it out of you. You have to come prepared with all of this information to share. That's what they expect you to be talking about. And that's what the candidate who gets the job is talking about. And that's why they're getting it. So again, really kind of showing you the landscape of what makes you a great candidate and more able to progress. It's your ability to talk about examples of all of these things. And actually, the kind of higher you get up the ladder, if you like, it'll be much more about, building wider relationships, influencing others, developing other people, strategic thinking. There's something about, again, not being so focused just on your role and what you're doing, that you've got a real sense of that wider vista, that you understand the business's objectives, your role in that. You're thinking more strategically about what's good for the organisation. So even if you're in quite a narrow specialism, again, don't get yourself too isolated. Look for opportunities to link up elsewhere with the organisation and take that wider view, because that's, again, that kind of understanding is what's going to help you progress. Okay, so how do we go about you kind of thinking about all these examples? Mix, if you could take me to the next slide. Your successes. Well, look, start off by thinking about something you're proud of in your career. Now, maybe it's something you got recognised for. Maybe you were Employee of the Month, or you got promoted to team leader, or you got a special bonus because you had, generated a certain amount of sales and you were top performer that month. So those are great examples of the kinds of things that you'd be looking that you can talk about. It also might be something, well, actually, nobody really noticed. They took it for granted. But I know that if I hadn't done this, that, or the other, the whole thing might have fallen apart. I held it together. So you know that you did a really good job on that. So think about examples of when you've done that. And I imagine that you could even look back on the last week and think about things that you've helped to solve problems and do things. There's lots of things. I can guarantee I could sit down with each one of you for even 10 minutes and you'd be able to think and come up with some really good examples of that. I think the other important thing to remember when you're thinking about your successes and you've got to gather these stories is to focus on what you did. Now, again, look, we know that you might not have done this single-handedly, that you'll be working with other people in order to achieve something. Perhaps you've been working on a project. But what did you do within that? What was your part? How did you make things better in the elements that you did? So you've got to kind of separate it out. And I think there is kind of an interesting division, really, because sometimes when we're in an organisation, we're very much encouraged to talk about the team. We did this, we achieved this, which is very appropriate. We need to be collegiate. But when you're going for a job, right, they don't want to know what the team did. They want to know what you did. So you've got to be able to generate these examples and these stories. Let's just look at an example, Mick, if you can take me to the next slide. So my achievements, right, and then just clicking forward one more, fantastic. So here's an example. So I've just chosen something that's quite, work a day, right? You might be doing this kind of stuff all the time, right? You problem solved an issue that was disrupting the data capture. Okay. But let's just think that through and think about, well, what did you have to do in order to resolve that issue? Well, maybe it was something you spotted that nobody else had spotted, or maybe it'd been a problem for a while, but you were the first person who said, well, actually, we need to do something around about this and make it work. So perhaps it was initiative. Maybe you had to go and talk to some of your key stakeholders or customers and say, actually, sorry, there's a problem here. We can't get that report to you as soon as we like because we need to change this, that, and the other. And maybe they were, oh, well, we need it. Maybe they were tricky. Maybe you had some challenges. Maybe you had to reassure them that you would get that to them as soon as possible. Maybe you need to involve them in the new system design. Perhaps they had all different ideas about different ways to do it, and you had to achieve a consensus and a way forward in order to make that happen. And all of this, of course, there's never enough time in an organisation to do everything that's required. So you're having to do this under pressure. And maybe you need to use your negotiating skills to say, look, I know you want it tomorrow, but actually it's going to be Monday before we can get it to you. How about we put something else in place for you before then as a temporary measure? So you're doing you're using all kinds of soft skills and creativity and innovation and all of those things in order to solve a problem. The other level of this is, well, why was it important? Of course it was important. Why did you do it? Well, because there's a problem if the data's wrong, right? Then decisions can be built on that data. And that's a problem. So you not only, in this instance, rectified something that could be a problem for decision making, it wasn't just a quick fix, but actually you fixed it for the longer term as well. So it's not going to be a recurring error. So that's going to save people time, that's going to save people effort, that's going to improve quality as well. And perhaps you also got some recognition as a result of that. Actually, I did such a great job on that. They asked me to sit on the user committee and advise on system upgrades going forward. Or perhaps it was you got a pat on your back, or perhaps that was something that was in your appraisal that was noted as a particular achievement and you got a really good rating as a result of that. So you can see kind of what we're doing here. We're taking something that you probably do every day and thinking through what's the skills that I used on that? What's the impact that that had? And getting that evidence together, because this is the kind of thing that you need to be talking about. Okay, these are everyday things that you'll be doing, but there'll be some other bigger things that you're proud of as well. There'll be some projects that you're involved in. There'll be some, you know, other kind of, you know, whether it was a rollout of a new onboarding of a new customer, or working with a department head that was tricky, all of those kind of things. And let's look at some examples. Nick, if you can take me to the next slide. So here's one. Yeah, talking about COVID, I am absolutely sure there are things connected with COVID that you can use as career achievements, because it's been such a multi-leveled, complex challenge at so many levels that you've had to deal with. So look, here's one that I just picked and invented, right? In response to COVID, I had to sort out the remote technology needed. So instantaneously I had to, you know, learn Zoom, get it set up, get the system set up, work out the security issues, all of those kind of things. I couldn't work in the same way that I was doing before, so I had to change my work stream, I had to review priorities, I had to negotiate to see what was going to be possible and maybe work differently with my colleagues. There was a lot of anxiety at the time, understandably. There still is, I'm sure, to a large extent, about, you know, how people are going to juggle things, how things are going to get done, because deadlines are still deadlines. Some of them are movable, some of them not. Perhaps you had to work long hours in order to make this happen. But the upshot of you dealing with all of that complexity was that perhaps you helped protect business continuity at a very challenging time. Perhaps you helped, by the work that you did, the company survive, you know, help do some analysis, financial analysis of, you know, of losses and how that might be stemmed. It might be that there are new opportunities that have opened and you've had to do some cost analysis, cost benefit analysis of all of those things. So again, I'm sure there are things you can talk about on that, in that respect. Let's look to the next achievement. So again, looking at softer skill things, right? There are always tricky people to deal with at work, whether it's your manager, a colleague, a customer, somebody internally in another department. Maybe there was somebody who's very challenging, but actually you were able to improve the working relationship with them. Again, that would be another really good example of showing your soft skills, and that would be an achievement, because again, nobody works in a silo, even if you're kind of, you know, working away at home, you're still part of a larger network that you need to be relating with. So those soft skills, the relationship management skills, are really key. And again, if you want to progress in your career, those things become increasingly important. And then we've got one more. you know, identified an expenditure issue with a particular department, and actually by working more closely with that manager and greater controls, managed to reduce the budget spend by 10%. So again, look, this is stuff you probably do all the time, but you're got to capture it as an achievement. So again, what people tend to do is talk about, well, I do, you know, expenditure checks or audit, but give these examples and the impact for the organisation as a result of that. So it's all these stories that you need to be building, acquiring, generating, talking about at interview, on your CV, on your LinkedIn profile, when you go for your performance review with your manager and they say, well, how's this year been? You know, don't talk about just the issues, or muchly remind them of all the good stuff that you have done. Very, very important. And then just going to final, next slide, just to summarize this all up. And I'm very happy to answer any more questions, any questions about this. But first thing, look, as a candidate, you've always got to match the selection criteria first. So if they need technical skills and experience and you haven't got them, you're unlikely to be shortlisted. So, right, so that's your first thing. You've got to be a good match. But even then, if you want to get that job, you've got to show you are a high performer. It's all these other things that make you so employable, so marketable. And you do that by providing examples. Be enthusiastic, go into that, be at work, going to an interview, and you've got to show that energy. But also using that throughout your career, being proactive, looking for opportunities, looking for things that you can positively change. That's the way you build your career. That's the way that you get ahead. And also it makes it more interesting as well. Who wants to be doing the same thing? There's all kinds of challenges coming downstream, all kinds of new technology. You know, the CPD that you have the opportunity to do through ACCA as well. Look for opportunities to develop your skills and then take them back into your organisation. All of that is going to massively, massively pay off. And then just kind of going to my final slide as just a bit of a sign off. So now I just talked about all the fantastic resources from ACCA. And I think you also mentioned that Personal Career Management are also partners with ACCA as well. So if you needed any support in terms of looking for your next job, thinking about what options you're interested in, then we have a whole series of career coaching programs and other resources. And we do offer a free initial review as well. So do take an opportunity for that. And we also have a 10% special discount on our on our programs as well, just for ACCA members as a special offer. And those are a couple of copies of my books as well, if you're interested. So I hope that's been helpful. As I say, very happy to answer any questions that might come up or as part of the panel.
Corinne, thanks so much for that. Just tons and tons of practical advice. And I really like that point about, even if it doesn't feel natural to you, if you're even a little bit shy, you need to sell yourself for this time, for that moment. You just need to sell yourself. And I love that way of, you know, just, it's so important to give examples and just sort of break down those examples. So just a couple of quick questions that have, you know, come up from our audience today. First one was really, it's quite a hot topic, virtual interviews, video interviews. How do I prepare for them? Are they any different from normal interviews? So I wonder if you give us your views on that.
Yeah, well, yes and no is the quick answer. The longer answer is, look, you're still probably going to get the same questions asked that you would normally say. You know, tell me about yourself, right? You know, what are your strengths? What are you good at? Why are you applying for this role? Why are you going to be good for this job? Right, standard interview questions. they're going to come up. They're going to be asked in a similar way, and they'll be asking about the experience for your job. So again, look at the person specification, look at what their criteria is, and build your answer to those questions based on what they're looking for. So that's the same. What's different is that you've got this very odd medium. Now, on the plus side, I think we all have become much more familiar with Zoom now.
We certainly have.
In a way that we hadn't necessarily all before. But I think there are a few things that you need to be really conscious about. One is you've got to be, you know, when you go to a physical interview, right, you're in their space, you will dress appropriately. They're kind of looking at you through as you come through the door, and now, you know, there's a first impressions thing that will be kicking in as well. When you're in a video interview, right, you're in your home probably. So their first impression is not just you and the way that you're dressed, but it's also your background as well. So, and look, you know, the reality is that sometimes people, the only kind of quiet space that they might have to do the interview might be in their bedroom. Or, you know, or there's a problem because there's kids running around the house or whatever, or pets or animals, all of those things. So I think you've got to be really careful to make sure that you're in an appropriate space, because your background is going to be really important. So there is a function that you can fuzzy your background. So if you're in a bedroom, for instance, so you can just make it blurry so that people can't see. Absolutely make sure that, you know, that you're not going to be disturbed. Keep pets out, you know, make sure somebody else is looking after the kids if they're at home, so you're not going to be distracted. And also just make sure that, you know, you have to kind of manufacture your eye contact in some respects, because normally if you're in a physical interview, you're looking into people's eyes and you look away and you're kind of making that connection, but it's a bit odd on virtual cameras. What you have to be doing is kind of looking right into the camera in order to achieve kind of eye contact, not necessarily at the eyes of the person on the screen. So it's a little bit odd, but I think that's something you can practice with. The good thing is you can rehearse this. So go onto Zoom, rehearse your answers, record it, and you can play it back. So you've got an easy way to check visually how things are.
Fantastic on that one. And then just one final one, a similar, you said talk about using the odd medium of how to do this. And also in your presentations about the importance of networking to progress in your role. How can you do that if you're, you know, working from home?
Yes, now this is it's a really good point, because I think there is some evidence, and I think a justifiable concern, that people who work from home more often may miss out on career opportunities just because they're less visible. The problem is you're working from home, then your world gets a little bit small sometimes, so you might just be dealing only with colleagues or certain customers. Whereas if you're in the office, you get to meet everybody who's coming into the office. So you have to actively network. And I think what's been a really great thing, I think, about that's come out of the pandemic is the online networking opportunities. Now, I don't know if there's ACCA do some online networking. They must do, I imagine.
We do hundreds of things, really. We've got you know, a vast amount of LinkedIn communities and WhatsApp communities. So every, you know, region and country will have their own thing. I mean, local engagement, yeah, with our students and members is sort of paramount for us. So yeah. So just speak to your local office if you're unsure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do suggest the kind of, because LinkedIn is great, but actually having a Zoom call, it's interesting at Personal Career Management, we have our own networking events as well, and we get people from all different industries and things together. and absolutely people love it. And it's even good for, I think, sometimes for people who are more introverted. I think the idea of networking is like anathema to them. They can stand it. But actually, there's something about online networking. It tends to be a bit more structured, because you can't just mill around a room and find somebody to talk to. It tends to be a little bit formal. People put in breakout rooms. Quite often you're given a topic to discuss that actually makes it more structured, that even for introverts, I think it's a really great opportunity. So I do, through ACCA, through other local business networks, I definitely get yourself onto some of those, because you'll learn lots, you'll extend your network, and it gets you a little bit, out the house, as well.
Mentally out the house.
Mentally out the house.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Corinne. Tons and tons of really, really good advice. And if you wouldn't mind just sticking around, maybe there'll be some other sort of questions later on. Right, I'll now pass over to Neville. And again, Neville, if you wouldn't mind what I'm asking, all of our panelists today, you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you work, and then a little bit about your career history.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Nigel, and thank you, Corinne. My name's Neville. I'm director of CV Writers. So we're a specialist CV writing company. My background is in recruitment. So for the last, how many years? Recruitment has been an overall kind of industry that I've been working in, but I started off working in recruitment advertising agencies. So my client base were HR managers and HR directors. And my role there was to write job advertisements. So I would take a brief and then learn how to market those particular vacancies. So what this did is give me a really good understanding of all the different types of roles there are out there in the marketplace, what they do, but most importantly, how to market those types of jobs. What are the selling points for those jobs? So about 10 years ago, I started CV Writers, and basically what I did was reverse engineer those skills. So rather than helping companies to recruit people, I now help individuals to market themselves for those vacancies. So it's using those very same skills, those writing skills, those interpreting a brief, understanding your target audience, and then making sure that people connect their CVs and their written applications to what employers are looking for. So it's using the same skills, but in a different way. And I set up CV Writers 10 years ago, and so we focus mainly on the written side of applications. So shall I start my presentation?
Please do, Neville. Yes, please do.
Great. Okay. Great. So Corinne mentioned the importance of kind of personal qualities and behaviours when you're applying for a job. And that really starts with your CV. I mean, if every CV simply stated what an accountant does or what a finance manager does, then literally they would all look the same. But of course, we're all individual. And so it's important in your CV at that really early start of the recruitment process to show your individuality, to show the personal behaviours and qualities that you bring. So what we're going to look at specifically today is a 7-point master plan, if you like. We're going to look at, so if you can bear these 7 things whenever you come to visit your CV or revisit your CV, it's going to give you a really good head start on other candidates. So our first point that we're going to look at is the importance of planning before you write your CV. We're then going to look at one of the greatest challenges, which is to place yourself in the shoes of the reader. We'll look at the importance of keeping your CV short, of focusing on achievements and outcomes, how to get your CV through applicant tracking systems. We'll then look at a couple of different popular CV structures before wrapping up with how to write your LinkedIn profile. So firstly, a lot of people underestimate how important their CV is. But when you think about it, it's very often going to be your first communication with an next employer. So it's really, really important that you get your CV right. I mean, you only have one chance with every application. And those first impressions count. So your CV is going a long way to shaping the perception of that employer about you. And the first thing that you want to do is think carefully about what are the types of roles that you're targeting, and therefore, what are the kinds of skills, experience, and expertise are they looking for in those particular types of jobs? And so therefore, how can you structure your CV accordingly? I mean, there are generally recognized protocols for different structures and different sections within the CV. So you've got a professional profile, you've got your contact details, you might have a key skills section, you might have a career history, and then qualifications and development. But how can you order those in the best way? Because most time is going to be spent reading the front page of your CV. So you want to aim to get all that most important information on the first page of your CV and structure your CV accordingly. Now, a CV is all about giving confidence to the reader in calling you to interview. So you want to show all the positive experiences, qualifications that you have in order to give you the best chance, the best opportunity of you being called to interview. That's really what the CV is all about. It's not about getting the job. It's about getting the interview. You know, there are stages that you go through in any application, and this is really the early part of that. And one of the greatest challenges in writing your own CV is to place yourself in the shoes of the reader. Now, it may seem obvious, but of course you don't write a CV for yourself. One of the secrets in writing a good CV is to understand the behaviors and the criteria for which an employer is looking to recruit for. So you have to almost take yourself out of your shoes and put yourself in the shoes of the reader. And the way to do this is to read the job description and the person specification for every job that you apply for. I can't stress how important this is because no two jobs are the same. Yes, they may share similar job titles, finance manager, tax manager, whatever it may be, but even jobs with the same job title can have very different criteria by which the employer are looking to recruit for. And it's only by matching your CV to the person specification that you can be really sure that your CV is working as hard as it can to say the right things to that particular employer. But of course, your CV does need to be personal and it does need to be original. Coming to those points, back to those points that Corinne mentioned, you know, we're all different. So you need to show how you can make a difference in your role. And that all starts with your CV. So the important point to take away from this slide is to tailor your CV for every application. Even if you are applying for jobs with the same job title, read the person specification carefully and look at that criteria. There are usually maybe 10 to 15 points within that criteria. Now, some of them may be common, of course, amongst jobs, but look for the ones that aren't. Look for the ones that are different. Look at the language that a particular employer uses. Different employers will use different terms to describe the same things. So even as far as changing the odd word here and there can make a difference to showing empathy with that particular employer. Now, there's been lots of research done on how people read CVs, and they're fairly unanimous in their conclusions. It's not going to be very long at all. Now, this may be a little bit disheartening if you've spent hours and hours or days and days toiling away, crafting your CV to get it right. But it's shown that on average, less than 30 seconds is spent reading a CV. And in fact, some research says the average is around 5 or 6 seconds. So you've got a really, really short window of opportunity with which to market your expertise. So it's common sense, therefore, to keep your CV short. And I would recommend no more than 2 pages and 750 words. So we give ourselves a short platform to work from. You might choose a 1-page in the early stage of your career as a graduate in the early part, so a 1-page CV or a 2 pages. But even if you've got a 30-year career behind you, keep your CV to 2 pages. Use bullet points, to break down information. use as few words as possible. Now, there's a different technique to writing a CV than there is, for instance, to writing an essay. You want to get your story over quickly. So yes, it's important that what you say makes sense, but you don't need to follow the strict rules of grammar. There's also been lots of research done on spelling mistakes in CVs, and unbelievably, over 50% of CVs still contain spelling errors. I mean, when you think about all the different tools that are available to us, it's amazing that so many CVs still contain grammatical errors. But the challenge here is that online dictionaries and spell checks won't pick up every mistake. There's a simple solution to this, which is to get someone else to proofread your CV for you, because we can become blind to documents that we're very familiar with. So always get someone else to check your CV before you send it off for that application. And a CV is about getting that interview. It's not about getting the job. In everything that you do, it's about high performance. And again, something that Corinne mentioned, it's not just about the technical expertise, it's about what you do with it. It's about the results. So what you don't want to do in your CV is to simply copy and paste the generic duties of a job or a job description. And you'd be surprised at the number of CVs that we see that simply just relate, these are my duties, these are my responsibilities. But a recruiter knows what a finance manager does. They're recruiting for one. Why do we need to repeat to them what they already know? Yes, of course, we do need to state the purpose of our job and a broad area of our responsibilities, but it's most important to show the difference that you've made. So how do you do this? Well, quite simply, you have to show individual examples of achievements. Now, those can be finance related if you have finance experience, but they can, you will have made achievements in any type of role that you've been doing. So within an admin type role, whether you've been working in hospitality, it's always important to show you performing well, to use specific examples of those. And if you can, include facts and figures to support that, because everything that we do is about creating a positive business impact. And of course, within finance, those can usually be broken down to facts and figures that show how you've helped to reduce costs in some way. Perhaps you've introduced new application software that's automated particular tasks or activities, or perhaps you've been able to identify areas where the company can expand and grow their business. So these are all positive impacts that of any kind of role that you play, whether in finance or other types of jobs. But including facts, recruiters love facts and figures because it's irrefutable evidence of you performing well. So if you can include, a number in terms of cost saving or hours saved in doing a particular task, always include those if you can accurately estimate them. Now, you mentioned applicant tracking systems or ATS systems, and it's enough to send shivers down the spine of a lot of applicants. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of mystique around applicant tracking systems. Of course, they are used by a lot of employers and job boards. And how they work is they're basically a time-saving device for recruiters. So if you upload your CV to a company to apply for a job, there will be a job description attached to that role. And the ATS system is an algorithm, and it works rather like Google or search engines. It then analyzes all the uploaded CVs against that job description, and it will rank them in order. And of course, the recruiter is generally going to pay more attention to the ones that might appear in the top 10 or the top 20. So your aim is to get your CV highly ranked in ATS systems. It is estimated that about 70% of CVs are filtered out by ATS systems. So it is the way, there's no guarantee with anything, of course. There are over 200 ATS systems out there in the marketplace, all working slightly differently, configured for their own different client needs. So there's no guarantee with anything. But if you follow a few basic rules, then you can give your CV the best chance of getting through those filters. So again, it comes back to the importance of reading the job description and the person specification. You can even use a highlighter pen, print it off and highlight what are the terms that keep cropping up for that particular employer. Then you need to make sure that you weave those into your CV. One of the things that you can consider is to include a key skills section under your professional profile. And that's a good way of almost like a containing device where you can include they could be particular software applications that you may require knowledge of, or particular terms related to finance or accounting. But by including those terms and those phrases, you're going to give your CV the best chance of getting through ATS systems. There are a few other things as well that are important. So for instance, ATS systems prefer Word documents to PDFs. Having said that, within Word documents, they can struggle to understand information within tables or headers or footers. So make sure that all of the important information in your CV is contained within the main body of the Word document. And again, it comes back to this all-important thing of tailoring your CV for every application that you make. And that, again, is the best way of getting your CV through an ATS system. Okay, we're now going to have a look at two common types of CV. The reverse chronological structure, which is the most common, probably used by about 90% of applicants, and the skills-based CV, which is a slightly more complex structure, but which can be ideal for people starting out in their careers because they can be helpful for demonstrating transferable skills. So here's an example of a reverse chronological CV. So you start off with your name and contact details at the beginning. You then have a professional profile. Now this in many ways acts as a positioning statement. This is your opportunity in a short paragraph to clearly state who you are in terms of aligning that to a particular job title. So that could be a finance manager. It could be a corporate tax manager. And then a little bit about the personal qualities that you bring to that job. So this is your first opportunity to start telling the reader a little bit about the individual qualities and skills that you bring that will enable you to succeed in that job. But you'll see that after the professional profile, the majority of the space in this two-page format is given to the career history. So the reverse chronological CV works very well for people with a little bit of work experience behind them. Doesn't necessarily have to be finance experience, but if you've got a bit of work experience, then this is the style that most candidates will adopt. And you can see that you'll generally write more information on the most recent jobs and then less on jobs going further back in time. And that makes sense because, of course, when you get to that interview, employers are going to want to know about the things that you've been doing most recently. And then towards the back of this structure, you've then got professional development. So you might include your ACCA qualifications here and your degree and other types of qualification. Now, the other type of CV structure that you might consider is a skills-based CV. So this starts off in many ways in a similar way to a reverse chronological. So you start off with your name and your contact details and a professional profile. But then instead of going straight into your career history, you can then have an extended key skills section. And this is ideal for showing transferable skills. Now, Corinne showed earlier an example of a problem-solving issue, which you may face in many, many different types of employments, and how you may have then created a solution that improved data capture, which had, of course, benefited the decision-making of that company. So one of the things that you could do is choose a skill that is looked for by that company. That could be problem-solving, it could be analysis, attention to detail. So look carefully at the skills that are required by a company, and you can choose 3 or 4 in this type of format. And then under those headings, give 2 or 3 specific examples of how, where, and when you've demonstrated that skill. Now, a good starting point is actually the ACCA website, because there is a competency framework in the ACCA website which gives you a good idea about some of the competencies that you will learn and develop in doing your ACCA qualifications. And those are also ones that are particularly sought after by finance companies. So there's a good starting point for some of the skills that you might focus on. But again, always come back to the job description and the person specification for the role that you're applying for, because that will give you a good idea about the particular skills and qualities that are important for that company. And always use specific examples. You want to ground your CV in reality so that the reader can clearly picture and visualize the things that you've been doing. That idea of visualizing information is important. You know, reading a CV in many ways is like reading a book. You know, the books that you enjoy are the ones where the author allows you to immerse yourself in their world. And in a very kind of a briefer way, you want the same thing to happen with your CV. And the reader can visualize information if you're descriptive, if you give specific examples. If you give hypothetical information, it's very difficult to visualize that. So that's why giving specific examples is much more powerful in a CV. And again, if you've got facts and figures to support those, then so much the better. So after your key skills section in this version of the CV, you would then have your career history. And backing that and supporting that, your education and qualifications towards the back. Okay, the final slide that I'm going to present to you today is about writing your LinkedIn profile. Now, LinkedIn, if you're not on there already, is really the social media for the business community. And it's a really, really helpful resource for you as a job applicant. Not only is it a free resource for companies to post vacancies on, it's a chance for you to network and to make contact with companies and organizations that you would like to work with. So one of the good things is that if you've taken lots of attention and you've got your CV up to scratch, you can use a lot of that information in your LinkedIn profile, because of course you do want to make sure that there's a consistent story between the two. It's very likely that after you've applied for a job, if a company is interested in you, then the next place that they will look to find out more information about you will be on LinkedIn. So you do want to make sure that you have a consistent story between the two. So little things like making sure that the dates are correct on both, that the job titles are aligned with each other, and you'd be surprised at how different they can be. So make sure that all of these little details add up and that they work between the two. However, you do want to write your LinkedIn profile in a different way. LinkedIn is still a social media, so you want to strike up a friendly and conversational tone with the reader. Whereas CV is all about punch and brevity and getting your message over quickly, you want to write your LinkedIn profile as if you're striking a one-to-one conversation with the reader. So a CV will generally be written in third person, but you might want to write your LinkedIn profile in first person. As I say, use a friendly and conversational tone, but some of the sections are very similar. So you have a summary, where you can use a lot of the information from your professional profile in the CV, and then the career history section. Again, it's important to think through what are the kind of most commonly used key terms and phrases for the roles that you're applying for. Of course, you can only have one LinkedIn profile where you can have many different versions of your CV, but try to use the most commonly used terms and phrases associated with the roles that you're applying for in your LinkedIn profile. And that's going to help employers to find you when they do their keyword searches and they're looking for applicants. Because wouldn't it be great if you didn't even have to apply for a job, then an employer found you? And this happens a lot on LinkedIn. So optimizing your LinkedIn profile can help your profile there to become much more visible. Now, one of the things about LinkedIn is they tend to look very bland, of course, because they have to follow a certain formula. So what can you do to spice yours up to make it look a little bit more interesting? Well, one of the things that you can do is to include a background image, because that can give a sense of individuality to your profile. So again, you can choose something work-related or maybe something abstract. Think carefully about the colors that you might choose and how they might work well with the background of the LinkedIn profile. A really good thing to do in addition is to ask for recommendations. Recommendations always look great, of course, because it's in people's own words how they find working with you. And there is a facility on LinkedIn where you can request recommendations from people that you've worked with. And a really good little CV secret is to take snippets of these recommendations and use them in your CV. Because LinkedIn is a public document, it means that you have, by in essence, authority to use that information in other documents. So that there's no reason why you can't use snippets of those recommendations in your CV. One other difference between the CV and the LinkedIn profile, of course, is to make sure, because LinkedIn profile is public, that you're careful about the information that you do include there. You don't want to include anything that might upset an old employer or even your current employer. So think carefully about certain sensitive financial information that you include there. You may include that in a CV, which is essentially a private document, but always think carefully about what you do include in a LinkedIn profile, because that's likely to be read by anyone. So that ends my presentation, which I hope has been helpful to you. I'll now hand back over to Nigel.
Neville, thanks again for that. Really helpful, and some fantastic tips there. I mean, all of the advice about LinkedIn I thought was really, really fascinating. And then the things about on your CV, having a sort of a key skills area, just where you put down, those particular words, so they'll get found out on sorry, I've got another strange things popped up on my screen. So those will get found by applicant tracking systems. No, that'd be really good. Right, just a couple of questions, just in the same way. Interesting one, this one. How has the pandemic affected how you should write a CV? Has it affected it?
Well, of course, it doesn't necessarily affect the structure of the CV, but what it does do is give you an opportunity to talk about other achievements, a bit like Cora mentioned earlier, where you have helped to create a solution for something, because the pandemic has had to fundamentally change the way that businesses operate. So many things that may have been done face-to-face before now have to be done online. And of course, that's made companies change very, very quickly the way that certain processes and procedures happen. So if you've been involved in anything like that, then you should definitely include that in CVs. And we're finding that all the time now with CVs that we've written. People have made a big impact in improving and changing the way that their company operates, simply, obviously through necessity, but it's amazing what people have accomplished in such a short period of time. So you should certainly be including that information on your CV.
Okay, that's great. And then another question. In fact, there's two questions which are quite similar, which I think is almost one of the key learning points about writing a CV. One is, should I send out lots of applications or just a few? And then a related one, do I need to change my CV for every application?
Okay, yeah, and that's a really good thing, because my advice would be to spend more time on fewer applications. It comes back to the importance of tailoring your CV. And, a lot of applicants can become very frustrated when they use the same CV, send it out to 100 different applications and never hear from any of them. And, you can imagine the frustration that the applicants might feel. But they would do much better to individualize their CV for applications, because that's going to help the CV to get through those ATS systems. But it's also going to help the human reader to have confidence in calling them to interview, because you're going to be saying the right things for those automated for ATS systems, but also to the recruiter, to the specifics that employer are looking for. So spend more time on fewer applications, but of course it is a numbers game. So you do want to apply for as many relevant jobs, but the jobs that you really want to go for, you have to show that passion and your enthusiasm in each of the applications that you make, and your CV is the first place where you can do that.
Okay, and then just a couple more. Again, this is a a classic. Is it necessary to send a cover letter with a CV? I know people are often confused about cover letters, sometimes again using the applicant tracking systems. Not always clear, but what's your advice?
Yeah, that's right. There's really divergent views about cover letters. Some organisations, pay great emphasis to them and see them as a valuable part of the application process. Other organisations really don't rate them at all. And there is a challenge in ATS systems, of course, because a cover letter is freehand. You can't conform to, the sections that an ATS system may be looking for in a cover letter. But about 40% of applications do ask for a cover letter. So it is
Gosh,
still an important part. Yeah, you know, it's still an important part of the application process. So if you're given an opportunity to write a letter, always do, because it's a further opportunity to tell the reader specifically why you should be considered for that role. You know, a CV to all intents and purposes is still a history of your career. But a cover letter is an appeal that you can make directly to that employer about why you should be considered. So I would always advocate sending a cover letter if you can.
Okay, and then here's the question that I might ask both of you, Neville and Corinne. Really, it's how do I write a CV when I've got no finance experience? So it's often asked that a student say, look, I understand, you know, you've got your skills-based CV and your reverse chronological, but actually, if I've got no, you know, I've never worked before, what can I do? So first Neville and then Corinne.
Okay, well, it's always, I say it's always about using whatever strengths and whatever experience you have. So if you've started your ACCA qualifications, there's something that should absolutely be included, and you might want to place those prominently in the CV towards the top. But equally, of course, any other kind of work experience or experience that you have at university or college in projects that you've undertaken should be included in the CV. And, you know, try to make those as transferable as possible in terms of demonstrating the impact that you made, the kinds of you know, words and phrases that are important for the world of finance in the way that you describe how you manage those particular projects.
And Corinne, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, I agree with Neville, and just to build on that really, is that I think it's often that it's not that people don't have any experience, it's that they're undervaluing the experience that they have.
Yeah.
So for instance, if you've worked in retail, you've worked in a shop where you think, well, it's not directly finance related, but you know, you'll be involved in sales, you'd have had to do some financial processing, you know, handling payments, you might have to work to sales targets and fill in data and work on an EPOS system. All of those are translatable to a finance kind of operation. So I think it's about absolutely showing the transferability, not just saying, oh, I worked in a shop. And even if it was like, you know, you worked on a Saturday or you know, worked one day a week, that's still experience. And I think if you have got really no experience, then you need to go out and get some. And that might be voluntary work as well. So doing, you know, being a treasurer for a charity or something else that's going to build up that experience for you.
Yeah, I often think working in a shop is brilliant experience for anything. I mean, dealing with customers, I can't think of a role really where you're not dealing with customers in some shape or form. So I often look on a CV to see if people have, you know, retail shop experience, McDonald's, anything. I think those soft skills count really, really highly.
Absolutely. Dealing with the general public. I mean, that's a whole high value skill set just in itself.
The first job I ever had was working on a tip, clearing litter off the nets that surrounded the tip. So yeah, working under pressure, time skills, these are all transferable skills.
Honestly, they really are. And you've seen some real life as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, I'm hoping our other panelists, I can't see them, but I'm hoping if they could turn on their video, I will be able to see some of our, there we go. Hello, Shalak. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
On the call. That's better. It's really nice to see everyone. So I don't know how much of how much you've heard of our previous call, but honestly, it was a fantastic, really fantastic for our students to get this, you know, advice, really good, really sound, practical advice from our two experts here. So again, I don't know how much you heard, but I was asking both Neville and Rose to, sorry, Neville and Corinne to just tell us, you know, who they are, where they work, and a little bit about their career history. So they've already done that. So I wouldn't mind if we just going to go around our panelists, because I think it would be useful for students just to hear the sort of wide and wonderful career histories people have got. So maybe if I start, I mean, just on the left on my screen, Virendra, I wouldn't mind if you start.
Okay, thanks, Nigel. Great to be here. So I'm Virendra Pereira. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Haley's Advantage, which is one of the largest logistics and transportation companies in Sri Lanka. and that happens to be part of the Haley's Group, which is one of the largest conglomerates. And my career history, I guess, I haven't wanted to act before like Corinne, but I would have loved to. But I started off as a lawyer, financial analyst, and an accountant. And all of that has helped me culminate in being a chief strategy officer. And here, so corporate planning, corporate finance, the shared services, technology, all of those are come under my purview. So that's me.
Great, thank you. Suren, if you could continue.
Yeah, hi, I'm Suren Rajakari. I'm currently the head of audit and partner at KPMG in Sri Lanka. Yeah, in terms of brief description, I started off at KPMG many years ago, and I still continue to be there. So my experience in terms of writing CVs and applying for job is zero.
That'll all change now. You've got the experience. You've been on the call.
But interesting, yeah, it was interesting to listen and hear the views of Corinne and Neville, obviously. Yeah, in terms of experience, I've used, so my advice is to use opportunities as they come along. And they always say, I mean, if you work hard, you will become lucky. So one of the few things which I had the benefit of doing is work on global secondment in 3 different countries. So during my career, I've been able to work in Oman on a KPMG secondment, in Dubai, and then in the London office for somewhere in 1995. The important thing was these were difficult times, so people sometimes wait for the right opportunity to use these kind of things, but those days, I think we're not talking of Gen Z, so I don't belong to Gen Z at all.
Oh, come on.
Our generation, we worked really hard, and we were lucky at that point in time to get most of the good opportunities. So that's led me to be what I am. I was also chairman ACCA, a Sri Lanka network panel in the last 2018 to 20 year, and I still continue to contribute to ACCA. That explains my ACCA t-shirt, which I'm wearing, because I just walked off another event from ACCA from morning till about 3 Sri Lanka time. So yeah, so in addition to doing my part in office, we also try to contribute our experience to enhance and help out new young professionals so that they also can utilize some of these opportunities. In that light, I think this seminar or the webinar has been really good in trying to encourage or enhance students and members to present themselves better. Yeah, so I'll hand over to Ratnakala.
Hi, thanks, Suren. Hi, Nigel. Hi, everyone.
Hello, nice to meet you, Ratnakala.
You can call me Radhi. It's a very long name. I know I should have updated.
Oh, what can I call you? Sorry, I missed that.
Radhi. R-A-T-H-I. Yeah.
Okay.
So lovely to be part of this. Thank you to Nigel, Corinne, and Neville for the interesting and very useful tips that I heard. I will be sure to pass that on with the people that we work with also. Some very new and interesting tips. So in terms of my journey, Nigel, I've been with Acuity Knowledge Partners for the last 13 years. So almost my entire career has been at this firm. We were previously a small boutique investment research third-party provider called Amber Research. We were taken over by Moody's Analytics, so we became a part of this big knowledge outsourcing part of this big parent company. We're now part of a UK private equity firm, Epistone Partners, as Acuity. So although it's been one firm for the last 13 years, it's been journey in terms of working in different, whether it's acquisition, merger, but it's been different, but in a very changing dynamic market space. So I've been on my toes as a result, and it's been exciting. So started off my career as a financial analyst right after my degree. Currently, I head the training and knowledge management function in Activity for Colombo. And I also head the buy side clients, so support a few large UK based and US based asset managers. So that's my journey in terms of my career. I've not wanted to be an actress like Corinne. I know everyone's touching on that, but I wouldn't have mind being a Bharatanatyam dancer. But this is the journey that on a more nerdy perspective that I took on. But yeah, that is my story, Nigel. Thank you.
But I think you make a really good point. You can actually have a journey within one company, working in lots of different places and different roles. You don't have to be, working, with lots of different companies. You can have a very fulfilling journey just working with, one or two companies.
Absolutely. Yeah, actually it doesn't, other than probably the fact that I go to World Trade Center for the last 13 years. Other than that, I mean, that the place of work physically has been the same, but it hasn't been like you're working for the same company. It's just been very exciting and growing. So yeah.
Great, thank
you. Absolutely right. Thanks, Nigel.
And Jahan, very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well.
And again, if that's all right, if you could tell us who you are, where you work, and again, a little bit about your career journey.
Absolutely. So like Suren and Radhi, I've been in one place. I've been in the John Keel's group for 24 years to the date tomorrow, actually on 24th of February.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a long run. So JKH is a diversified conglomerate. So they're into many different business lines. So whilst I've not had the opportunity of working in different companies, I've had the opportunity of moving within the wider JKH group, doing work in a project division called management review, doing some work in the leisure industry, in the transportation sector. For the last 15 years, I've headed the shared services initiative, which has now grown to be a fully fledged BPM. So it's been a very fulfilling role. In addition to my day job, I'm also proud to be on the ACCA member network panel. I currently serve as a vice president, and I'm also part of the IT BPM industry association called SLASCOM. So I serve as a director of finance there. So what I see about both these organizations, ACCA and SLASCOM, is that there's a real passion for Sri Lanka to create awareness on the incredible talent that we have in the country and to help promote business linkages. So that's a little bit about myself. On a lighter note, just to lighten things up, I also asked Viren the same question you were trying to ask him, and he's very modest, but I found a whole list of things from CFA to law to, I mean, you ask any name the qualification and he will, you'll need to tease it out of him, but there's a whole load of things there. So I found out over years a whole range of qualifications that he's done.
Excellent. Clever man. Clever. Right. And last but not least, Shanika. Hello there.
Hey, thank you very much, ACCA and all of us giving this opportunity. Let me introduce myself. I'm Shanika, currently working for a company called WNS Global Services as a board director, as well as a senior general manager, human resources. So WNS is Sri Lanka's largest third-party BPM organization, which serves about, in current Sri Lanka, about 1,000 employees. I saw one of your presentations, Aviva has mentioned. So Aviva is one of our clients for WNS Sri Lanka. Coming back from my career, this is my 25th years of experience in HR. Also, I started my career as a HR clerk in a manufacturing organization, and today I'm very proud to be in the position where I am. So I come with a diversified experience in the manufacturing, service industry, NGO, as well as the BPM industry. And also, like I have worked with Jehan with the SLASCOM as a BPM forum lead. I'm also chartered fellow member of the CIPM, equivalent to like the chartered institute in UK, and happy to part of this panel.
Great. So thanks very much to all of you for telling us about your career journeys. But I wanted to pick up on something that Jehan said about the passion for Sri Lanka. And I know very little about Sri Lanka. I know it's the pearl of the Indian Ocean, but I don't know what it's like to do business in Sri Lanka and also to build your career in Sri Lanka. So just for the sake of simplicity, do you mind if we just do the same order? But I'm just very interested about, how for our students wanting to build a career, working in Sri Lanka, what are the benefits of doing that? Because pretty much all of you have done so.
So if I can start, I mean, Sri Lanka, I'm passionate about it with everyone else here as well. So if you look at literacy, we are 93% literacy. The language of business is English. Our infrastructure is brilliant. Now, to be honest, whether you need infrastructure to do work is a question because you can work from home. But our technology in the region is kind of the best telecom. 4G, we were the first to launch 4G in this country. Secondary education is good. So I mean, every secondary, tertiary, primary, everything is good. So it has all the prerequisites of being great. And I think, as all of you all know, we have the best weather in the world. And it's a place everyone wants to come and work in. Right? So when we have it all, I think we have qualifications like ACCA, which are global qualifications also, where our teams our employees are taught and upskilled to face all challenges. And now I think with technology, you necessarily don't need to travel to work. So we have everything here and ready to serve the world, that's for sure.
Suren?
Nigel, you should have asked this question from Jehan, because Jehan is the one who promotes Sri Lanka so much, because he has a lot of interest.
We'll hear from him in a minute.
So if we put Sri Lanka Inc. as a corporate and look for financial and non-financial indicators, all what Virendra said are non-financial indicators, which are brilliant. I think we probably have the best in terms of quality of life, going from any of the non-financial indicators, whether it's a weather, sun, sea, sand, or whatever you like to do. In the lopside, other side of it is the financial indicators, which causes a lot of issues in terms of talent flight. Because if you take our GDP, growth rates, inflation, savings rates, all the financial indicators, we have a economic issue. So though Sri Lanka is a unique place to do business, we can use our talent to do, if they can work virtually from Sri Lanka, we can do a lot of work overseas. But we are a 20 million population. Out of that, the number of students who are doing accounting are a smaller number. So those are obviously the challenges arising from Sri Lanka being unable, so what shall we say, not being like India in terms of being a unique model for business process or knowledge process outsourcing, or using our talent to serve the world. Because lots of our talent just takes flight, and ACCA being a global qualification does help them a lot in trying to find this ideal job in a country which is called the developed country. So we get categorized globally as a developing, or what shall we call, somewhere in that category. So that's the issue. But otherwise, on the non-financial indicators, you find it difficult to beat whatever we have. Let me leave the promotion to Ratnakala and Jehan.
Thanks, Suren. So I like to build on what Suren said, and I like to talk about the flip side of us being small, and drawing on my personal experience when I started off working in Sri Lanka as as a budding financial analyst. The size being small actually sometimes benefits a lot of the professionals when you're coming up, because your networking is that much more stronger. It's effective. We have a solid talent pool, as Suren already discussed, and we have exposure to all of the big firms, you know, whether it's the big four, exposure to global capital markets through firms like WNS, Acuity Knowledge Partners. And the fact that you're small also gives you a lot more forums to effectively network effectively, you know. That, I mean, that is what I want to say, and that actually proves to be beneficial, because then that grooming of talent, upskilling yourself, there are that much more opportunities for you to build on.
Or was that frozen for a second? Is that going to come back?
Network issues.
That's a network. I might, Jehan, sorry, would you mind us then taking over in terms of that, and then maybe we'll come back to Ratty in a second.
Sure. I'd like to begin with a quote from A.T. Kearney, which calls Sri Lanka a hidden gem. So as a country, it has been liberally blessed. We have the highest biodiversity per square foot anywhere in the world, the best gems, the best cinnamon, the best spices, the best tea, some of the best beaches. So it's liberally blessed as a country. Possibly we've not made the best use of it since independence, but I think it has tremendous potential, and people are just beginning to wake up, Sri Lankans included, to the tremendous potential this country has, and the way that it is located geographically, a part of the ancient Silk Route and so forth. Then coming to the talent aspect, if you look at, you know, everyone's talking these days about the vaccines. And one of the key researchers who worked on the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine was Sri Lankan Professor Maheshi Ramasamy. And like that, you'll find so many examples across the world of outstanding Sri Lankan talent. The CEO of Australia's Macquarie Bank is a Sri Lankan. So we have liberally blessed as a country, huge natural resources, a lot of it untapped, and huge talent pool ready to serve the world. So there are several quotes that I would like to leave you with. One from Chris Steele, Global Head of Consumer Services, where he says, one of the sites where I actually see the most innovation and one of the most proactive working with the Sri Lankan team has been one of the most receptive anywhere in the world. Then Anne Neidenbach says this is the fastest stock exchange. The rate of transactions has been the fastest anywhere in the world. A.T. Kearney says some countries have oil, others sit on vast deposits of ore. Sri Lanka has its own bountiful resource, a mountain of accountants ready to crunch the world's numbers. So you have the world just waking up to the immense talent pool, and I'm really looking forward to the next 10 years when I think Sri Lanka will be at the center of a lot of things.
Great, thank you, Jehan. Sorry, Ratty, we lost you for a second. So was there anything else you wanted to say at the end?
No, I mean, I think Jehan also summed up what needs to be said. We can move on. Thanks.
Okay, then, Shanaka.
Right. So I think Virendra, Suren, Jehan, and Rati mentioned about the general view. I just want to highlight about few things from the employer's point of view. What is about unique about Sri Lanka? For Sri Lanka can able to offer not only the standard AP, AR work, but also high-end work we can able to provide. So we have a huge talent pool where we can able to capitalize on the high-end work that we can able to provide. And also from the attrition point of view, where all the employees are looking, having problems today, the lowest attrition you can able to, provide from Sri Lanka, because our numbers are very low compared to other the FNA, the services are provided by other countries like India, Philippines, those countries. And also, if you look at from employers' point of view, career progressions can be provided by the Sri Lankan organization, because we are a small organization. If you look at Virendra, myself, Rati, we all, even Jehan, we are working for the organization and started with a small part, but become, come to the highest level. So career progression is a good thing that we can able to provide. One last thing I just want to share with you is about Sri Lanka, not only about finance and accounting, but also has a huge pool of IT resources. And today, because of the IT and the combination of finance, Sri Lanka has produced the highest number of fintech resources, and most of them are today serving all the global companies like London Stock Exchange, Accenture, you name it. That's unique about Sri Lanka from the employees' point of view as well as from the organizational point of view. One last thing about the organizational point of view, I think there are two big things that they can able to get it. One is about the cost of employment is comparably low, and there's a cost arbitrage is there. Second one is about you can able to get the return on investment because the government is more flexible towards the business that they want to invest for Sri Lanka. Those are the some points would like to share.
Okay, then. So what I really want to then move on to is just really to talk about how the pandemic has changed things. So again, if we could go through the same order, how the pandemic has changed things for your company, and then particularly to answer the question about, is this new, the fact where so many of us are working from home and that's not going to go away, might that change the issue about talent flight? That actually there's no need to. You've got so many fantastic resources there. You can be employed by an international company, but still be based in Sri Lanka. So you have the best of both worlds, from what it seems to me. So I don't know whether that could be a reality. But so Viren, would you mind to talk about how your company has adapted to the pandemic over the last 12 months? I mean, I was talking about finance teams almost coming to the top of the tree in terms of, being really decisive during this time. I don't know if you found that too.
No, for sure. I think it was at the beginning quite a shock, I guess, and thankfully, Haley's and Advantage being a large organization, they've been here for 140 years, so they've weathered quite a few storms. So this was just one more to weather. But obviously, like you said, it was the accountants and the finance guys that came at the start, because it was about self-preservation and preserving cash.
Yeah, it really was.
So the first 3 months was just taking stock and surviving, and then not reacting too strongly either way. Once you figured out where you were and your position and how it was going to be from a cash point of view, is when then it was a month-to-month cash management scenario for the first 3 months. Thereafter, it was we took stock of the whole situation and planned ahead, and thankfully Haley's, to be honest, and Advantage really capitalized from it, and we are growing pretty strongly because of the pandemic, to be honest. But teams had to change, people had to change. It was working from home. Thankfully, we even in Sri Lanka, we are diverse. We are in different regions of Sri Lanka, as well as we are in the region as well. We have officers in India to Bangladesh to Indonesia, Myanmar, Maldives, all over. So we are used to remote working and governing remotely, but we had to do it more now, and using all the tools of collaboration. Thankfully, we have the resources and the technology and the teams to put it all together, and we were up and running. But I think it's going to be a mainstay. I mean, I think to be honest, we are getting the policies in place. Getting one of the biggest issues would be people engagement, and working, using video conferencing and so on and so forth. So there are cultural barriers. There will be individual issues which we need to sort. So we will go one by one and sort all those issues. And I think it's going to be here to stay. And like you said, there is no reason now to migrate. We've realized you can do business development just as well, not taking one flight out of the country, and our performance shows it as well, strangely. So you can perform using technology as opposed to any other way. So it has been a big realization, and I think technology adaptation and adoption and is going to be even faster. So the more agile you are, the more you're going to survive, and technology is going to play a big role in that, for sure.
And our students who are more tech savvy are in an excellent position to take advantage of that, I might have guessed.
For sure. And I think the baby boomers, the Gen Xers are finding it tough. but the the millennial Z's and the alphas or whatever we are going to call it are taking off, and I think my kids are going to have a great time because they love devices, and it's going to be even more required. Creativity and everything is going to be more required in the future, for sure.
Perfect. Søren.
Yeah, so how the work environment has changed in the last 12 months at a micro level, at an organizational level, that has been significant. Obviously, we moved from physical to a virtual environment where people don't travel to office. At least we don't allow a lot of people who use public transport to travel to office. We've been able to enable technology to do that. But there are two aspects to it, because we as an accounting and auditing firm, we deal with over 1,000 clients in Sri Lanka. But say a good percentage is able to adjust and work along with the technology we have. But there is also another good percentage, a significant percentage, who is not able to adjust their working habits or the models, because cost of technology is comparatively higher in Sri Lanka in terms of whether compared to another country, whether it is a physical laptop or a server or even using the network. So because of that, it's like a 50-50, where we've been able to work successfully with larger corporates and multinationals on a virtual environment, and use all the millennials and Generation Y people who are technologically savvy, as well as who like to work in a more relaxed environment. So that has been helpful, but it's been a challenge at the same time to handle the rest of the population of clients where they're not ready, and then we still have to modify our working arrangements to still overcome the challenges of the pandemic and lockdowns and restrictions on travel and all that. So it's a mix for me, but obviously the working environment has changed. All the global trainings have gone online. Nothing now, there is no travel, there's zero travel, which means you saved 50% of your time anyway, because if we had to go to Dubai for a one-day seminar, we would spend 3 days, whereas now you just spend only 4 hours or 5 hours on a machine. So we've to that extent,
much more efficient.
Much more efficient, and quality of life probably has improved, because you get the other 2 days to do whatever you wanted to do, rather than sit in a plane or sit in a hotel. So to that extent, there is a lot of changes we've encountered, and we've able to say manage 75% of it successfully in the last 1 year. This year has been I mean, people are getting used to it, and then some people just forget that there is a pandemic because we got so used to it. But hopefully our vaccination programs, which we has already started in Sri Lanka, will be completed in the next 1 to 2 months. And my only hope is that companies don't go back to the physical working environment of an inefficient model, and just capitalize on what we have learned in the last 1 year. So I think Rati and Chanaka and Jehan obviously are able in that particular space where you do KPOs or process outsourcing and IT related stuff. So they would be able to hopefully capitalize on the changes which has happened in the last 1 year, because we still have dinosaurs in the corporate world who prefer to see people physically attending office and seated in office for the 8 hours or the 10 hours you are in office. So, I mean, I would seriously like to hear the views of our fellow panelists also on this.
Me too. Yeah. So Rati, do you think we can ever put the genie back in the bottle in terms of video conferencing?
I don't think we should. So from my experience, I mean, we come from a space where work from home actually was not an option because we deal with a lot of sensitive information, and one of the important parts of our value chain or value propositions of our business is that you work in these environments where you have these Chinese walls, you're working in physically controlled environments. On that trust factor is what the clients outsource these this particular work. So working from home was never an option. We had to go physically. But overnight with the pandemic, we had to shift. Business had to continue. There was no, obviously, employee health was trumps everything else. And we needed to shift. So, I mean, overnight we did discuss with our clients. We got those approvals. We needed to mobilize a lot of resources in terms of, getting laptops delivered to people who didn't have laptops. Ensuring you come up with systems that still maintain those security controls that you would otherwise have had even in your physical office, working on AWS spaces, putting these specific controls. So mobilizing IT support to get all of that infrastructure sort of transitioned to a work from home space was our biggest challenge. Which I'm happy, 12 months later to state that we did that within a scope of 36 to 48 hours, and basically mobilized all 300 employees to work from home. And 12 months down the line, things are functioning as it should from home. We're still largely working from home. Clients have become more receptive to the idea because they understand that the information security is still intact, even working from home. Technology has enabled those controls to be still implemented. And frankly speaking, we do have, the positive is that we have had a lot of individuals who commute 1.5 to 2 hours to get there, to do that 9 hour job, sometimes longer, because we work in a field where you just complete the task. It's not a time-bound day. So efficiency has actually kicked in. People have better quality of life, as Suren said. You're less on the road, you're spending less time on the road, and therefore that efficiency gain is actually translated to the client, and the clients are very happy as a result. So those are the positives. On the flip side, however, we work with a lot of young people. We hire a lot of freshers. One of the core value systems of the success of our business is grooming this talent when they start. Being physically, going over to the desk, assigning them mentors, managers who can go onto the desk and say, hey, you can do this better, this is how you do it, and also sort of that positive morale being contagious, when you work with a high performing team. That I would say is probably lacking, and it's a bigger challenge to maintain that same morale virtually, which we have to weather as we go. But overall, once all this vaccination program is done, I hope we take the best of both worlds and function.
Completely. And Jehan?
So I also echo what the previous panelists said. I think our staff responded magnificently. They really rose to the occasion. They really supported us during this transition. The responsibility that they showed without the supervisor's eye on them to really deliver on all their commitments was really praiseworthy. And our clients around the world said that they saw their SLAs maintained or sometimes exceeded pre-COVID period. So I think all around Sri Lanka's IT BPM industry, which I could speak of, really gained a lot of goodwill from all our customers around the world. Now, as Radhi said, looking forward, I think some of the challenges might be with the younger people. Number one is they are missing the social interactions, which are so important aspect of work. Training for new projects for young graduates coming into the work stream is going to be a challenge. So I, of course, think that the work realm and a lot of things, how we do things will change possibly for the better. And in some aspects, even business travel, I was listening to Richard Quest, some of these are going to change forever, possibly. how we have meetings, use of technology, some of these there's no going back. So I think we will probably adopt a lot of these practices going forward. But you might also see a happy mix coming in with some amount of physical work, maybe a couple of times a week, some physical meetings, so that you get the best of both worlds. Thank you.
Right, we've got about 7 minutes left. So I know, Sharnika, you didn't have a chance to talk about that, but I just wanted to sort of change the tack a little bit, just for the final thing. And I can see I've got now 7 very successful people on the screen in front of me, but I just wanted to just let the students know that we were all students once. We all started out on our careers once. We are, we know it's not easy. We know you take different journeys, but I just wondered, with literally 30 seconds, per person, if you could just give one piece of advice to students starting out, whether it's about CVs or interviews or anything. I might start this because I might say, because something that I had learned is the interview starts when you walk through the door of the building. There's a thing called a chat gap. So while you're walking to the interview and while you're walking back from the interview starts the moment you cross the threshold of that company. So you need to be switched on for that sort of little chat gap, whether you're going up in the lift or anything. It starts then. Don't think it only starts, because I've just seen that so many times when I'm giving the interview or not. Anyway, I talked too long there. Neville, and then Corinne again. Just a quick 30 seconds each.
Okay, always persevere and don't take rejection personally, because it's not a personal thing. So you've got to be confident in your own ability and just keep going.
Building on that, I would say talk to people. In your career, people have usually got the answers. They can give feedback, they can give advice. Ask people, people are happy to help. That is probably the single most important tip for your career, I would suggest.
Sorry, Sharnika, I missed you out. Do you want to go? Do you want to go next, and then we'll go to Vera and do the same order?
Yeah. So when you go for an interview, my advice is think that this is going to be your last interview or the last chance, and anyhow try to pass from the interview.
Yeah, if I may, Nigel, I think like you rightly said, the CV is absolutely important. It's apparently within the first 30 seconds you're either hired or not. So first impressions count, how you're dressed, how you're attired, and show the value. Show the value you bring to the organization and what change you can make, and frankly why they should hire you. So within the first 30 seconds.
For me, I think I would always, since we recruit more students at the initial stage and look qualified professional numbers are slightly lesser, I look for the kind of enthusiasm or the vibrancy they bring to the discussion. When they come in, whether they're able to smile, whether they're able to keep up a higher level of energy during the interview. Some people play the victim card or whining about something which happened in an organization which they work for. It doesn't go well. So it's always good to bring positive energy and enthusiasm and sort of a vibrancy when you walk in, as you walk in, as well as during our discussions and how you speak. That would make a bigger difference once, because by that time they would have read your CV, I suppose. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I would say is obviously invest in yourself, get out of the comfort zone, but technical skills can be learned. You can always be trainable, but work ethic and your integrity is always trumps everything else. So bring that to the table always. If it's not there, that's what you need to harness on.
I would also echo what Suren said about being positive, radiate positivity. The other aspect is take a long-term view. Today we find a lot of the new people who come in are looking for very short-term gains, but I would encourage taking a longer-term view in your career, because it pays off over a period of time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much, all of our panelists. Lots of words of wisdom then. I mean, I've just written down sort of 3 very short conclusions. I thought, one, there is no going back. We cannot put the genie back in the bottle, or the horse is bolted, you know, whatever we say. We are in a, you know, we knew we were in a virtual world before, but the pandemic has massively advanced that. We are, you know, virtual world, virtual interviews, they are definitely here to stay. But I think ACCA students can really benefit from that. All the financial and digital skills they've learned. What a launch pad, you know, to start. And just the passion for Sri Lanka that radiated out of my computer, you know, for the last hour. I felt the heat. I felt the heat and sunshine of Sri Lanka. So I think, you know, our students have chosen well, and, you know, the Sri Lanka office has chosen well for the panelists today. So thank you very, very much indeed. I really enjoyed that. I could have gone on for, you know, quite a while longer, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Nigel, for doing a
Thank
good
you.
job in moderating and keeping it to time.
Okay, thank you all very much, and I hope to see you all again soon.
Likewise.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
ACCA.